I pride myself in just going with the flow, like working within the boundaries and discovering the loopholes. You know, on TikTok, you know, you can't say a lot of things that are like negative. You can't say the M word, which is murder. That's definitely that video might be pulled, might be flagged. So like you make changes to words. Like instead of murder, like you say like, oh, unalive.
You have heard us talk a bit about the Words of Wisdom project, but what is it actually? Now, it's an initiative powered by Folklory and supported by MCCY, where we've been talking to Singaporean seniors from all walks of life to capture their invaluable life lessons as podcasts. Taxi drivers, researchers, teachers, and even ambassadors. We've talked to them all. And by the end of the project, we would have spoken to 60 Singaporean seniors and distilled their insights into a compelling podcast series that will be a time capsule of knowledge for future generations. All we'll need is 30 minutes for the interview. And if you're keen to be part of this project, or you know someone who you genuinely find interesting, head on over to our website at folklory.com to nominate that person as an interviewee. We only have a limited number of slots for recordings this month, so send us your nominations today. The link is in the show notes, so please check it out. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala,
Bye.
your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Kate?
I don't know. We didn't go through this.
Yeah, with a touch of good old
funny
humor.
Thanks.
Humor. Okay, this is the second time in like 2 months you've come on the podcast. But I guess the last time you took my role, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And now you're back because Terence is now away this week.
Yeah, I'm the replacer sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes
you're the stand-in. You're the stand-in.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be back? How was your last experience?
Oh, I love it. I love Terence. You know, Terence is such a nice guy. He's such a wonderful and so funny, such a funny and humorous and lovely human being.
So what made you say yes again to the podcast?
I mean, I don't want to let Terence down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's great.
The show must go on.
Yeah, because you were not my first choice, to be honest.
Is it?
Yeah, but Terence reached out to you.
Yes.
And then
because he sees the potential.
He does, which I don't see at all.
Right. I'm sad for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Harish. We talk to each other like that all the time. But I love this guy.
We've known each other for quite a while because you also start in She's a Terrorist.
That's what Terence said in the last podcast as well.
Yeah, because I mean, thankfully our channel also has been growing. There's some people who might be listening to us for the first time or maybe second time. So Kate starred in our TV series that had a very sad ending, but which gave birth in some way to Yalabat lah. Yeah. So I mean, but I know after the last time you came, because you were talking about some issues that triggered some people in the comments lah, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, there were comments that you were responding after the podcast.
Yeah, I was practicing something.
What?
How not to be affected by negative comments.
And what were the negative comments about?
I don't know. Like sometimes it's like like against women or like our rights or whatever lah.
So how would you respond?
You know, I think like if you know yourself and you know that you know what you stand for, then it's not very hard to respond.
I mean, I will give you kudos for responding because you responded in a way that can tell that you are letting yourself be hurt, but not in a way that's like an asshole would lah.
No, I don't think it should change how you are, you know, just because someone insults you. Like, it shows a lot about them and not about you.
Wow, such a high road.
But you understand, like, I have to do that or like I will crumble, you know. It's not easy, you know this. You've been creating content for so long. It's not easy.
Yeah. And I mean, the comment world can be quite harsh lah.
Yeah, because you don't have a face or a name. It's very easy to say the nastiest thing that comes to mind.
Yeah lah.
Because you don't actually understand what goes on behind the scenes. It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah. And I mean, since that podcast, you've also been traveling quite a bit.
Yeah.
You spent some time in the US where, you know, there's a huge decision coming out in the next few days, which we won't go into.
Yeah, let's not.
Which we won't go into, but it's going to be an interesting week lah.
It will. Oh my gosh.
But I mean, we still have 2 topics to talk about today.
Yeah, what are they?
Normally we talk a bit. You don't just jump straight into the the questions.
Yes, we do have 2 topics coming up as Harish said.
Yes. And the first topic is before that, we need to do a plug for people to listen and subscribe to our podcast. So in your, you know, now that you have blown up on TikTok, can you just like can you just like do us a favor and ask people to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify and
Spotify and what? And social media?
Instagram, TikTok, Reddit.
Okay. If you like what you watched or heard, please remember to subscribe to, what is it?
Oh my God, Yalla Butt.
Yalla Butt, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube channel. Remember to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and share it with your friends. Also, leave us a comment if you are happy or not happy with something we say.
And Kate will respond.
And I might respond.
You might respond. Okay.
I usually do lah.
Yeah, you usually do. But yes, now we can jump straight into the first topic.
Okay.
Which is the news that a recent Singapore film has actually been banned, or not say banned, they have been refused a rating by IMDA. And the film is called Small Hours of the Night by a director from Singapore called Daniel Hui, who has done quite a few films that are somewhat provocative, very artistic. But this latest one has been barred here because it's been apparently the authorities have deemed it potentially illegal and likely to be prejudicial to national interests. So had you heard of this film or not?
No.
Small Hours of the Night.
No. Tell me more about it. Why is it prejudicial to national interest?
I mean, because the movie is about a certain thing in the history of Singapore, which was the 1980s prosecution of Tan Chu Bun over the revolutionary inscriptions on the grave of his brother Tan Che Wah.
Okay.
Any of those names sound familiar?
Absolutely not. Why don't you explain?
You didn't read?
In case I read, but for the people that didn't read this article or who have no idea, why don't you explain her?
Okay, so maybe before we go into that, what is your take on the state of censorship in Singapore?
I think it hinders growth because, at the end of the day, we need to learn how to make our own choices, right? That's my perspective because I've lived on my own for a long time. And I realized that the biggest growth I've ever had, was when I made mistakes that out of my own choice, I when the road forks, I picked one and that road was not the right road. Then that's the biggest learning curve for me, rather than just doing what, people say oh, you shouldn't do this because this is going to happen. But unless you try it yourself and you experience it yourself, I feel like you don't know exactly how it's
But how does censorship prevent you from doing that?
No, censorship prevents you from trying things that you would otherwise as a human being
in terms of content creation.
Well, no, as even humans, right? On TV we have a lot of family values type things, oh, this is black and this is white. But I feel like life is full of gray areas, and censorship prevents us from seeing that life is more than just the black and white.
Have you had a personal experience with censorship that kind of either impacted your career, your own content creation process?
Not really. I feel like I pride myself in just going with the flow, working within the boundaries and discovering the loopholes. Does that make sense? On TikTok, you can't say a lot of things that are negative. You can't say the M word, which is murder. That's definitely that video might be pulled, might be flagged, might be barred, right? You also, I was told you can't really swear a lot because there's a lot of children on it. So you make changes to words. Instead of murder, you say oh, unalive. Or instead of, death, you say, oh yeah, in case they're,
Also, it's
unalive.
a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah. So whenever I say it on Instagram, people are like, unalive, but actually it's a TikTok thing. Yeah, I didn't make it up. I wish I did.
But how did you find that out? If you literally say the word murder, the whatever algorithm,
you don't know because people still do, right? But and they have an algorithm that tracks these words because they have a very good closed caption, auto caption system, right? So the moment the system sees the word, I guess they will send that video to someone to vet it, and then if it's inciting, unaliving, then they will pull your video lah. So
now actively you say unalive instead of murder.
Well, I think it just became a part of my body, my system, my vocabulary. So I instead of the F word, I say fudge or fork or front or something that starts with F lah. People understand what the fish, what the fork, what the front, any F word you can replace lah.
I see.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's interesting because before we talk about your own experience with censorship, a bit more context about why this film is deemed potentially prejudicial.
Yeah.
Because the context of Tan Che-wa, was basically, he was, because at one point there was the communist threat in Singapore, right? So it was a trial in 1983. So he was part of what was known as the Malayan National Liberation Front, which was the MNLF, which was part of the Communist Party of Malaysia.
Okay.
And this was in 1968-ish, around there. So they were very against the separation of Singapore and Malaysia. So I think at one point in 1976, the ISD, Internal Security Department in Singapore, clamped down on the MNLF members in Singapore.
Manilaf.
Yeah. So there was a raid. They clamped down on hundreds of them in Singapore. They arrested some. They released some after interrogation. Some were detained under trial. Some were turned over to Malaysian police, and some ran away. So Tan Che-wa was actually one of those who ran away to Malaysia.
Right. But he was caught and executed, right?
Yes, he was caught in
And unalived, for example.
Unalived.
That's
correct.
how you use it.
Yeah. So he was caught in 1979. He was caught on a vegetable farm in Johor, and he was caught in possession of a pistol with 7 bullets in. So in 1983, on 18 January, he was executed by hanging in Kuala Lumpur's Pudu prison.
Oof.
So his body was brought back to Singapore, and his older brother, Tan Chu Bun, arranged for his body to be buried at Choa Chu Kang Cemetery. But
there's an inscription on the tomb that also ruffled a few feathers.
Correct. So do
you know what it is?
You can find it on Wikipedia. So this inscription was scribbled on a piece of paper given to Tan Chu Bun by his brother's widow. Brother's wife.
Yeah.
And in some way it was inscribed, but later he was charged because apparently it glorified communism and kind of went against what the Singapore government was trying to clamp down on back then. So, I mean, you can find the inscription online, and I can share a bit about what it said later. So this film is basically a conversation over the course of one night between two characters, a man and a woman.
Okay.
That it takes place in the 1960s, and she's being interrogated, but it pulls or draws historical facts from the trial of Tan Chu Bun. And it talks about how in some way, because if you look at it, the Tan Chu Bun was arrested for playing a part in the inscription being made on his tombstone.
Yeah.
Which in the Singapore government's eyes was wrong. So in some way it's censorship. So now this film about censorship is now being censored. So there's an irony there. And I mean, okay, if you read the inscription, right? So I mean, this movie is not like recounting what exactly happened. It just
it's an interpretation of with the same sort of underlying notions.
Yeah, because she's being interrogated, and it draws reference to that. So the inscription, basically, it was in Chinese.
Yeah, and
I'll say some stuff like Martha Tan Che-wa came from a poor peasant family. He contributed all the money he had managed to save to the organization, the Communist Party of Malaysia, thus manifesting amply the noble quality of a revolutionary warrior. And then, in the cause of liberation of the motherland, he was hanged in Pudu prison in Kuala Lumpur on 18 January 1983 and died a heroic death. At the time of his death, he was only 35. A few moments before he died, he wrote a heroic poem which read, "With heart filled with righteous indignation, I stand at the gallows and forcefully pen this poem with blood. I want to air my grievances for 100 years, unable to tell all the wrongs with blood. When will these gallows be destroyed to bring about a new heaven?" So basically, for his cause. So Tan Chu Bun was arrested and charged with 2 offenses. One is playing a part in the inscribing on the tombstone, and one with just holding the piece of paper with the inscription. And he was sentenced to a year in jail, which was then, after appeal, reduced to a month. So, that's why I assume it was seen to be prejudicial.
Yeah.
So when you hear something like that, right, do you think it's something that could ruffle some feathers or be dangerous in Singapore?
I mean, even as creators, right, whatever we put out there, we need to be responsible. Because someone might watch it and, feel a certain way, and they might misconstrue the meaning or your perspective and then, take action. I think the taking action part is kind of like the scary part, right? Like if you champion a cause and then someone's like extremist about it, and then they say, well, you know, we watched Yalabat and they said this, so let's X, Y, Z. And you're like, guys, like that was not our intention, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that I guess our government is trying to like prevent from happening, you know, because I mean, Harish, you're a very intelligent human being. And
I
say
wouldn't
this,
say that. No.
I would, right? Even though I hate you, I would say that. And like, but like not many people, there are many people that are as intelligent as you, but there are also a number of people that aren't, right? That could misunderstand something and then act upon it in a negative way that hurts thousands of people. And so I think from that perspective, again, you know, logical to a fault, sorry guys, but yeah, from that perspective, I can see why the government's like worried about that.
But you think it's because just now you said, you know, censorship hinders growth.
No, it does, you know,
Yeah.
but like, how there's no such thing. I mean, having traveled and lived in so many parts of the world, I realize there's no like utopian society. There will always be some people left by the wayside and, you know, doing their best and still doing the wrong thing by society standards, right? So, you know, having something out like this in the public, you will have some people with very few options available that will take one option that could ruin 100 or thousands of lives, right? So that's on the governmental level when none of us are in the government. We don't know like all the cases, right, to consider. So I don't know which side I would take on this, but I can see all the sides. And all I'm going to say is like it must be super freaking hard to be part of the people that decide that this should be censored.
But then like,
right?
Don't you think that now, because if you Google small hours of the night, right, there's so many articles.
Yeah.
Straits Times, CNA, it's on the Instagram account of the Singapore International Film Festival, which this was supposed to be screened at.
Yeah.
Which now it can't be screened anymore. It's taking place from November 28th to December 8th. And I mean, the leadership of the film festival themselves have come out and said that they still want to support the film because they do see its potential and its merit. But it's IMDA who said no. So there are articles on Deadline, Variety. And don't you think like censoring it like this is making more people... I didn't know of this case before.
Yeah, but if you didn't tell me, I also wouldn't have known.
Yeah. So then is it
so
the
now
best
you do
thing?
the podcast, now everybody going to be like, I'm going to Google this now. You've just contributed to like people's curiosity, right? So can I assume that you're like anti the censorship? Think they should be screening this?
So I don't believe in complete free speech. Maybe when I was younger, I was like, oh, I think, but no, I think the moment you accept that there are certain things that are not fit for kids, in some way, that is censorship.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so anyone who says they believe in complete free speech, I don't know whether they've considered all the cases.
Yeah.
So in this case...
Especially now you're dead, so like, you have to
exactly.
consider that as well.
Yeah.
Right? What your child ends up consuming.
Yeah. And also because this was going to be screened at the International Film Festival, I don't know if it was going to have a theatrical run that was going to be open to the audience.
Yeah.
Open to the public.
Yeah.
I feel that censoring this, it's the Streisand effect. More people know about it. And I mean, the film is not recounting the incidents head on.
Yeah.
It is just, I think it draws references towards that.
But also is open to interpretation, right?
True .
Now, how can you interpret something if you are not allowed the freedom to interpret something?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that's where I stand as well. But like, I know like you and I, won't try to go and start something that, riles people up,
But then don't you think like anyone can listen to any of our podcasts where we say something maybe a bit more speculative or a bit more aggressive, saying, oh, this is fucked up, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then, like, let's say someone watches your content. There's a lot of content that you do that, okay, what's the most polarizing thing you think you have covered? Or the one that got you the most amount of blowback or something?
Oh, man, I don't know, man. Like, honestly, I've been doing one a day for the last year, so I cannot even remember. Plus,
Anything that comes to mind?
Maybe like when I said like Singaporeans, we can be... I think the one that really blew up was that like Singaporeans, we can be quite entitled, And like, obviously people like us, we will understand, how entitled we are as Singaporeans, because the little things that we expect because the government has made, things flow very smoothly and run very well in Singapore don't happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so we can see how entitlement can breed in that
what
way.
if someone watched that video
Yeah.
and kind of said, you know what, I agree that we're all entitled, that what Kate, my favorite TikTok creator, said, now I'm going to take away this entitlement from everyone in Singapore and do something that would make us all not entitled anymore. Then how?
We're not on TikTok, so fuck.
So I mean that's the thing lah. Like,
yeah, no, I mean that's why I can see both sides of the coin. You know, like I can see like the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. Everything in between is still fine, but like the worst case scenario is the one that we're trying to prevent, right? So I understand, but then I also think that it's not if we don't censor but we provide education on perspective, maybe it will be a better outcome than just censoring it. Then now it becomes sort of like what happens when you repress, right? Then we all get a little bit more garang and, we get a little bit more like excited about the thing that we can't have. So we all get interested in going out there to find the actual film and go and watch it and link it back to the history and stuff.
But do you think that, this culture of censorship in Singapore and all, it almost affects you when you think about content to create? Or maybe if it's not Singapore, maybe even if it's TikTok or generally internet.
Well, not for me, I don't think, because like studying as a designer, right, you're always told to work within a brief. And you understand the brief in Singapore. And I honestly, having lived so many places in the world, I realized that we are very, very lucky here. So whenever I create content here, I actually think that it's always in favor of everything the government has been doing because, when I go somewhere else and they tell me that their healthcare costs an arm, a leg, a kidney, an eyeball, and half of your brain, I'm just like, I cannot. You remember you told me this story, right? You were part of this whole like content creation team, flown all the way there, you and Terrence. And then when you sat next to a lady whose leg had been bombed off, remember?
Oh, yeah,
you're like, fuck, we got nothing to talk about, yeah. They've been through the rafters, yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Whenever I go overseas and then someone's like, oh, what is Singapore like? And then have this conversation with me, I feel like I cannot complain at all. But then I come back to Singapore, I got something to complain about. But then I leave, I'm like, fuck, I hear their story, I'm just like...
But then, do you think you don't have a right to complain?
No, I don't think... I think people have the right to do whatever the hell they want as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. That's basically just the metric that I try to run by. Like, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, but like, before I say something or before I do something, I think about like, people who are watching it, right? Even the children, right? Whether or not this is going to negatively affect them. And then I curate what I want to say from there.
Oh, so that means when you create content, you really are trying to make it as like, how you say, can work for as many people as possible.
Well, I think it also has to align with how I feel and what I believe, right? Do you know what I mean? But like, I don't generally have like very, very much to complain about. Not because, I mean, we are all privileged in some way being Singaporean, okay? Like strongest passport, in a lot of ways lah. But I try not to complain because like if I can do something about it instead, then I'll do that. If I can't, then if I complain, then like nothing's gonna happen. I just like waste however much time complaining with no real like outcome. Like, I mean, people can do that if they want. If it gets it off their chest so that they can function better. But like I generally just like maybe it's an avoidant tendency, but like I just go, okay, forget it. Can't do anything about this. What can I do something about? And then I go and do that instead. I don't know. How about you? Like, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I think everybody has a right to complain.
Yeah.
I think also, I mean, this in some way why we started this podcast. Like, we wanted to complain.
Of course.
But also make it like our livelihood.
Yeah, but it's relatable to complain, right? I mean, nothing is perfect in this world, right?
And I mean, I also don't believe in always, I mean, yes, we should be grateful for a lot of things, but I think there's no reason why we can't strive to be better.
100%.
Yeah, it's not say just because there are many things here that work better in other countries doesn't mean we can't complain about things in the hopes of getting it to work better.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So coming back to like this censorship thing, because even just now you said, right now you're almost programmed to say unalive instead of murder. So
no, but I still swear on Instagram. So like I just choose where I do it. Does that make sense?
No.
Like I choose where I swear lor. If I'm
How?
on YouTube, then I will say fuck lah.
But TikTok you won't.
But TikTok I won't. Yeah. If it's an expression maybe, but like if it's like as an insult towards someone, like I just don't think I think that's really counterproductive to like unity. Or...
But so that means, are there like different versions of Kate?
No, I think TikTok is like the top of the funnel, right? It's where people discover you. And then Instagram is where they really know you, right? So then people will find you on Instagram, then they will like talk to you, then they realize, like, oh, okay, like she's just like all of us, right? But like I don't really censor anything on TikTok also. If anything, it's not always very palatable to some people, I don't think.
But it's not say something that you would say on one platform versus the other. Because, for example...
No, but also I want to make sure I don't get shadow ban. Like, okay, by the way, shadow ban does not exist. I asked TikTok already. They said it doesn't exist. Don't know why people keep saying it. But
what if TikTok's not telling the truth, Kate?
Okay, lor, then I'm stupid, lor. But it's fine. I'd rather be stupid than an asshole. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I don't think there's like different versions of me. I think there's a lot of different versions of ourselves depending on the situation that we are placed in. Right? And you wouldn't speak that way in front of new clients. You wouldn't speak that way in a boardroom. But you would speak that way after you guys have like had a good connection and you did the job, you go for drinks and then you like show your true self, right? That's when people connect with you, right? So I think that's the same with like TikTok and Instagram or even YouTube. I don't think that there's a very different version of me, but if it warrants the fuck, I would say it. But I don't really censor. I just don't have that word in my vocabulary, really. I mean, in formal settings anyway.
Yeah, because I was going to say the moment we hit record, you'll probably be like, oh, fuck this, fuck. No, I think that's more me. I think that's more me.
No, I will still swear. I've sworn, in front of you guys. And actually, I don't know if I should share this, but like my niece who is 10 years old, like she's allowed to. But she needs to know when. So the lesson for her becomes when. She cannot swear in front of people that she's new.
That means her parents had a talk with her about how to use the swear word and all.
Yeah, because we use it, right? And then one day she said, when she was very young, 5 years old, you cannot say that word. Then we're like, well, I mean, we only, and we don't want to censor, like, again, right, censorship, right? We don't want to censor the real world because she's going to go out and someone's going to say it. What then? We're not there to correct it, right? We're not there to educate her why these people can say it. It's not the people people who swear aren't like bad people, right? We just use it in the right way. Like we use it as a form of expression rather than like fuck you, as in like really fuck you or Haresh. Like we would say that as like joke, like when we say something stupid like hey shut up lah, okay lah, fuck you, this kind of thing, like, but only within a certain circle will you say these words. You wouldn't go and talk to, I don't know, our president in this conversation and swear, right? In work situations. So I feel like that's what we tell Gaia as well. That's my niece's name. We call her Gaga. Gaga can say anything around us. But the moment she's outside, when she knows that we're in an environment where people might be offended, where there are other children whose parents don't let them say the word, then that's when you shouldn't say it. So basically, don't say it unless you're around us.
But how do you explain that term, the F word, to a 10-year-old?
Well, it's just a bad word. I don't know what her mother says to her, but like even like removing that, right, from a list of things that she should not be doing or she should not be saying, she actually doesn't really use that word. Whereas like I wonder, right, if we talk about repression as well, right, it causes people to,
the forbidden fruit lah.
Well, yes, place it on a pedestal. So then any chance they get, they'll use it, right? And better yet, if it's not around the eyes that would like judge them for it, right? They'll just keep using it. It could be the word, it could be an act, it could be something else, right? But like just having this open conversation with like a young child like this, she understands. And like, back to the censorship topic that we're talking about, like if we take time to explain, and again, I'm not a parent, so I really cannot say anything because I don't know. But like when we explain a difficult concept to my niece, she will ask all the questions that she's ready to hear the answer about, and she will understand it in her 10-year-old way. But as a father, don't you think that it's like very, very interesting how much your very young daughter actually understands?
Yeah. And I mean, thankfully, I don't need to think about that yet because she's only 8 weeks old.
But like sometimes she does. I mean, I'm wondering. I'm asking. I guess I'm asking a question. But like, does she, react to certain things in a certain way that surprises you sometimes?
I mean,
in terms of like comprehension.
Right now, hard to say because sometimes when she cries and all, it's either because she's pooped or she's hungry or something. But sometimes when I'm talking, I do swear in front of her also or with her in the vicinity. Then I think, oh shit, should I not be saying it? Should I be saying it? So still thinking about how to approach that.
Yeah.
Because going back to what I said, I think that free speech, I more agree with what you said about you act differently in different contexts. And it's not say you are being inauthentic
right,
or something
it's just a different facet of you.
Yeah, it's just a different facet. So, but when it comes to kind of like being the authority that regulates what other people see. Let's say in this case, if the IMDA reached out to you, Kate, we need help with this problem. Should we allow this to be screened at the Singapore International Film Festival?
Like sometimes I'll just tap out. Like sometimes government bodies will ask me to do certain videos and if it doesn't align with my values, I won't do them.
But this one is not asking you to do a video.
No, I know. But like if they ask me to like what?
Just say, okay, we need
like
help
it's riding on my decision, is it?
Yeah, deciding
I
whether
would say
or not.
let it play.
Why?
Because I think, you never waste a good crisis, right? Like if you are about to push out something that is like provocative like this, I think there needs to be also like a talk afterwards, right? Talking about, the other side of the coin as well, or, like another perspective. You let people like voice their opinion, and with more perspective, you have more options to choose from. And so you're not stuck with just good or bad. You have a whole bunch of gray areas to decide upon as well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I would say also just
what would you do if the government asked you?
I would say screen it because so on one hand, if it was a race related film that was very almost seditious,
divisive,
that one there is a law in place, right? The Sedition Act and all. So whether or not you disagree or agree with the law, I do believe that, okay, if it's stated you want to go against the law, then you subject to the consequences. But this one, I think the reason they gave was the media authority said the film revolves around discourses about the impact of Singapore's judiciary on personal lives. It features a person being interrogated on issues with references to past judicial cases, which essentially is that like the movie Two People Talking, and it is about the impact of Singapore's judiciary on her personal life. But to me, I'm like, if you're censoring it based on that,
like what do you have to hide?
There's no law. There's no law. Of course, contempt of court and certain things and all, there are laws around that. But this film, it just feels like, this is jumping the gun.
And also, if I watched this film and I didn't know, the history, it would just be... I would put it in context for my own life because that's what your art films are there for, right?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
contextual, like see how you can apply it to your own life or like,
And I mean, these art house films don't even appeal to like everyone.
Yes.
Like, to be honest, it is not my cup of tea at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is not.
Okay.
I can't deal with art house films. I've tried. There are certain films that have art house vibes, but are also a very good kind of film.
Okay.
But
like what? Joker?
No. Parasite. That's like the...
Oh, yeah.
You will hear art house people talk about Parasite. You'll hear commercial people talk about Parasite. And it is like the epitome of something that is quite like a bit of both. But so this kind of things where it's catering to a niche audience, when they impose on like this, right, it just makes me feel like if I was a film director, I would totally just make a film, no matter how bad, that touches on this, because all this is free press.
Yeah.
It's really free press. I had no idea about this film.
Same. Until you sent me the link today, I was like,
what? And if you look at the coverage it got, maybe they are really playing 4D chess.
Yeah, but they always say no publicity is bad publicity, right? For this reason, right? But unfortunately...
because the director is already going around looking for funding for his next project. And I mean, this film has been screened at quite a few places because I think his films are very art house. But yeah, so MINLAW said no, Attorney General's Chamber said no, and now IMDA ultimately said no.
Wow, sian.
So that's the state. I mean, thankfully they haven't started censoring podcasts yet.
Hang. I mean, like, what? How would they like do that?
Exactly, it's damn hard.
It's like our business, our livelihood, our own channel, right? Like, depending on what country you're from, then
then they would lobby the tech platforms because they have actually gotten Netflix to remove films and documentaries about drugs from the Singapore.
So sad. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Netflix has been. I don't know when, but there is some. Yeah. So Netflix removes drug-related film series from Singapore service after takedown demands from IMDA. This is back in 2021.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
why? What kind of drug films is this?
So it is the show's Cooking on High. I'm guessing is a cooking show using drugs.
How to cook like meth and stuff, because like you can get the drugs. I don't
think you cook with...
You apparently you can get the drugs and like do it yourself.
No, like it's more with the edibles. Then you make like brownies and stuff. I don't think they have a documentary about cooking meth.
I don't know. Breaking Bad exists, right?
That's fiction.
Yes, but apparently you can. Anyway, but also, maybe I shouldn't say very much.
There's also The Legend of 420 and Disjointed. So those are all shows that were taken down.
Interesting.
And also Cooked with Cannabis, a competitive cooking series produced by Netflix where chefs make cannabis-infused meals and have a good trip adventures in psychedelics. So those were all taken down.
Interesting.
So as much as like, that's why it's hard to say podcast is our platform because ultimately we are beholden to the platforms.
Place that we stay, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we are just tenants.
We all are, man. The whole world is. We just borrowing land until we
die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
What?
I was trying to frame that sentence so I can use the word unalive instead of die.
But you say unalive and die and murder how many times already?
No, I know, but like sometimes See,
you're self-censoring, Kate.
Exactly,
you're self-censoring. You're a changed person.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, you're a changed person. The Kate of 2024 is not the Kate of 2018 that we knew.
Did I say die a lot?
I think you did, lah.
You are such a liar.
You did everything that you say. You used to complain a lot. You say die a lot. You're like, F this, murder. But you have grown, like it.
Don't believe this motherfucker.
You've grown. You've changed as a person.
See, I just swore.
Yeah,
don't believe
exactly.
this motherfucker.
You see?
No, but like,
I'm keeping
you
real.
deserve it, bro.
I'm keeping you real.
No, I am real, man. I'm like real, but like, fuck.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is a good context for going on to our next topic.
Yeah.
Where someone was honest with the patrons of his service, and was quite polarizing, lah. And this is a story of a Singapore private hire driver who put a message, I think it was at the back of his seat for any passenger that comes in, that has been labeled as a savage note to riders. So basically...
I mean, he has mastered the hook to make people read.
But I don't think he labeled it savage.
Oh, he didn't label it savage?
Because he posted it someone posted it in the Facebook group, Professional PHV, Private Hire Vehicle Drivers Singapore. So the note says, "Hi rider, point number 1, no need to inform your driver that you are rushing or late for a meeting. There are thousands of selfish riders who only think about himself or herself. You are not worthy for me to put my life on stake. My only task is to transfer you from one point to the other point safely. At the end of my working day, I need to report back to my lovely home. If given a choice, do you think I will spend so much time on the road? I would rather spend more time with my family. You have plenty of choice to avoid being late for your meeting. Plan your trip earlier. Wake up earlier. Point number 2, need not ask your driver to take your preferred route. It is stated clearly in the app. Your fare is fixed. The driver decides the route. No need to teach your grandfather how to drink coffee. PHV driver spends more time than you on the road. Each driver will choose the fastest route to end your trip. And number 3, no food and drink inside my car unless you want to help me catch cockroaches in my car."
I hate cockroaches in the car.
I hate cockroaches in general. So I think a lot of other drivers were saying, I will volunteer to print and laminate for everyone. But if you got into a Grab or like a private hire vehicle and saw this note, right, what would you feel, kid?
I honestly think it's like warranted.
Why?
I mean, sometimes the drivers, they would have watched my TikToks and they strike a conversation, right? And like the stories that they share with me are really terrible. Like people are nasty to them. Like, like everything that this guy has said, like start to eat his Thai fun inside the car, everything. And then like spill the drink and then, rush off. So it's like, oh, sorry, I add a tip for you, $5. But then like the guy still have to stop driving just to clean up the Coke. You know what I mean? Like, and also, I have a story that I read one time on Instagram. This lady, I assume is very religious. She wrote a story about how God is great. And it's stories like this that make me happy to not be religious because she Oh my God, I can already see that's the one that you're editing and going to put up.
You never know. Okay?
It's stories like this that make me not want to be religious. Because, okay, caveat first, I believe there are good religious people and then there are assholes masquerading as religious people lah. And she must be one of them because her story, I read the whole freaking caption,
So
right?
she posted something?
Well, I don't know her, but like it was one of those like you scroll through, then you're like, she took a selfie in the car, in the Grab or taxi.
This was a comment on one of your videos?
No, this was just a post that I chanced upon. And she took a selfie and then she had a story. So I was like, oh, a story. I'm going to read the story. And her story, obviously I don't remember word for word, but like she basically said, I woke up late. Something about God is great and, this is why. I woke up late, I only had this amount of time to get to work. And so like I called the Grab or Uber or taxi or whatever. And then like, we were rushing. Oh my gosh, the freaking ERP, $5 or something expensive like that. But thanks be to the Lord, He forgot to input this into the charge. So I didn't have to pay for it. Face palm, you tell me or not. And like, if it was me, I would be like, oh, hey, can I send you this? Because like, this is not your fault and this is not your mistake to pay for. I'm late and I need to be accountable that I'm late and so therefore I have to call a Grab and then like I have to pay the extra charge. And it's not the driver's responsibility. And just like thinking about this popped to mind obviously when I read that lah, because it's not the driver already not making so much money, right? You still let him pay the $5 like ERP. And then you say, God is great.
Maybe it was being like ironic. Like, do you know whether that person is religious for sure?
No, then I went to stalk. Then everything is like, God is good. He believe in Him. And, the bio tells you everything. Then like, it just popped to mind. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy.
But then do you think that in some way having a message like that, right, is like one of those like, you're stereotyping all passengers, because if
but I wouldn't be offended. Like, I mean, I just think, that does not apply to me lah. If it doesn't apply to me, then why am I offended? It's
almost like, okay, like you invite someone to your home or something, and before they even come in, you're like, okay, you come, please take care of my home. Don't pee all over the toilet, please. You don't pee all over the toilet. You want to poop or you want to fart, please, you do it politely. Yeah. You're telling me you won't feel a little like, what did I do to make you think
I will ask lah. I'll be like, oh, has this happened to you before? And then they will explain. I feel like communication can like stop a lot of these misunderstandings.
No, because
right?
okay, so
then they will say like, last time every time I invite people, right? Yeah. Because our boss always organize thing at my house, right? Then my wife cook very nice food. Like, I'm making this shit up, okay? Yeah. But like, then also everybody always come my house. Then never take off shoe. Then like that's why y'all come. I tell y'all first.
Yeah.
But how else you don't state your boundaries?
So I mean, so you're saying that if you were to see this, you wouldn't feel like, I don't think I'm a passenger like that. Like, why you so harsh towards me?
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's a message to the people who are like that. I feel like the people that get mad are the people who are like that.
No, so you say you travel and lived in a lot of countries and all, right?
Yeah.
And you went from being a majority race in Singapore to a minority in other countries. Yeah. Were there any times where you felt like, this person has already formed a judgment of me?
I think people form the judgment on you immediately when they meet you, and it's not something that you can control. I feel like when I react, I always think about things like, is it something that is out of my control?
But let's say someone is racist towards you.
Yeah, I've only experienced that twice.
And how do you feel?
And I have to say, I have to call out my privilege because that plays a huge role in me not being offended because it's not a chip on my shoulder. So my first reaction, so the first time was maybe 10 years ago when I was living in LA studying acting. And it wasn't really like, it was kind of like racially insensitive or maybe a sensitive racial statement to make. But like, I mean, this guy was hitting on me and he said like, I am of the Asian persuasion, right? And I'm like, I mean, it's not like outrightly like go back to your country or anything or like stupid chink or whatever, right? But then, actually, I'm thinking about the word chink. When I was in Australia, someone walked past me and called me a chink. But like, it's not a thing that I experience. So it doesn't have the negative connotation or like the...
okay, what about a sexist comment?
Sexist comment, maybe I would be like more I would like judge based on the, oh my God, I'm like logical to a fault, guys, sorry. Yeah, I just think about it. I think about like whether or not, like for example, I always tell myself like, this guy doesn't pay your rent, don't care.
So if someone was sexist to you, you wouldn't feel the least bit triggered or offended?
No, I would point it out, but I wouldn't be triggered.
But would it irk you a bit?
I would change my judgment of this person. I would understand how I am going to deal with this person moving forward at arm's length, at many arm's length.
But would you prefer that there was like the sexist comment wasn't made?
No, because it shows me more about them than it does about me. And I don't care, because if they said something like okay lah, one of these commenters said, shut up and make me a sandwich lah. And I just responded, what kind of sandwich do you want? So I just like respond with a joke lah, because to me it's like, that's such a we are in the 21st century. Are we still talking like this to people? No,
but in the when we were talking about the first topic, you said that okay, maybe you can process that. Okay, this is just showing me more about this person. I don't need to care about this person because he doesn't pay my rent, lah. But you said it's also important to think about how people can misunderstand or misconstrue a message. Yeah. And that can have negative consequences. So
that's why on my platform I will respond. If you go to my comments, you'll see all of the response. Like, this comment makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I will tell them that.
So what kind of comments make you uncomfortable?
Like when they are commenting on how I look. And and I know they're trying to be nice and they're trying to pay a compliment, but I also know what generation that might be from. And so I said, I just want to let you know that this comment makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. What do you think of the topic I'm talking about? And then what surprises me almost every single time is that they will actually respond with, oh, I'm sorry, yes, I really enjoyed the topic.
Yeah. So aside from comments about physical traits or something, like coming back to this, don't you think that this already sets up like a hostile kind of relationship between driver and passenger?
No. I don't know.
What if someone sees this and be like, what, you think I will do this kind of thing?
But then it's also like someone's impression of you, and it's not always accurate. And every single person you meet will have a different impression of you. Like, do you want to control the narrative for every single person you meet? Like, you can't. You literally cannot.
So my point is like, if you saw this, there wouldn't be a small part of you that'd be like, is this necessary? No. Do you think it could be worded differently? Or you think like...
I think, it's not tact is not everybody's strong suit. Right? And also, something has to be said about when you are so fucking frustrated that you just do lah. So I can understand it, unless I'm a driver, I don't actually understand how hard it is to be a driver and the type of people. And I whenever I get to talk to drivers about, how their day went, sometimes when they go, then they will complain, right? Then I let them complain, because I don't know, I'm going to think I'm crazy, but sometimes I think like if I'm in a headspace where I allow people to complain, then they get it off their chest and they'll be nicer to the next person. I know it's so like, but like, I just believe in the butterfly effect of like affecting one person's life positively and that person taking that and paying it forward in, in a very subconscious way lah. So that's my perspective lah.
I'm not saying like being a driver.
You would be offended, meh?
No, like
when you read this thing, you would be like, hey, uncle, excuse me, this is not me.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say offended, because offended is also a very loaded word.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that being a driver is easy, because it is fucking hard.
I don't drive, so that's why I'm like, I don't know anything.
We did this gig for a rideshare company years ago where I was a driver in a car. Yeah. Of course, that one I was a driver in a car for 48 hours. I didn't leave the car. But even for the first 4-5 hours driving is damn shit. Yeah. So I think it's a damn hard job, and it's almost thankless a large part of it. But when I see this kind of message, then I almost feel like it's in some way taking the experience dealing with a few passengers and assuming every passenger is that way. which I feel
But
is...
don't we do that though? We make like snap judgments
Correct.
about people's professions in its entirety.
Correct. I agree. But then where you draw the line? Because in some way,
I draw the line in...
Let me finish, Kate.
Sorry.
Yeah. In some ways, stereotyping, then it can go into this very kind of like, even racial profiling. You can argue that's stereotyping. So all I'm saying is that this sort of message, I can get the sentiment, but to me, it immediately sets up a very tense kind of like situation. And yes, some passengers can be assholes.
Yeah.
But like any profession or any demographic of people, you also get some drivers who are assholes.
Yeah.
Right. So my whole thing is like, I wouldn't say I'm offended, but it's more like when I see this, well, it's immediately, okay, there's
standoffish already.
Adversary. Yeah. And like, I mean, like the thing about being late for a meeting, sometimes, life happens, right? There are still nice ways that you can communicate. Okay, I'm really sorry. Is there any way that, we could try a faster route or something?
Yeah.
So when I see...
And texting your client that you'll be late because of traffic is not an option?
I mean, it is an option. But I'm just saying, like, there are sometimes...
Because I'd rather, like, he's right, I'd rather be safe on the road. And also, like, when you see so many cars in front of you, there's literally nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with the sentiment. I'm just saying the way it's worded. And I get how you're saying, like, tact might not be everyone's strong point.
Yeah.
But that, I think, is also giving freedom to anyone to go on the street and just be like, hey, fuck you, lah. Okay, sorry, tact is not my strong point.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so...
I always feel I cannot control what people do. I can only control how I react to it.
But then in some way, then that's kind of like saying, don't you think that removes a bit of agency or influence from an individual?
No, it's true. It's true. But like, I will call it out when but I will call it out with tact, because like you can't fight fire with fire. We know this. We're creators, right? If you like argue with someone online, nobody wins, also, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's either you like have the opportunity to communicate with them or like make a change or like, be an activist in some sort of way, or then there's literally nothing you can do. So I always just weigh these options. I told you I'm logical to a fault, sorry guys. But like, I really do think about these things before I like fly off the handle.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not saying
I know you understand, because that's why we are friends. So like,
friends will be pushing it. Friends will, colleagues.
We don't dislike each other too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit. A healthy amount of hate.
Yeah, but that like we know each other for so long. When you meet someone for the first time like this, you see this message. So again, I'm not disagreeing with the sentiment.
I know.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people can be very demanding.
Yeah.
But when I see this, I mean, part of me is almost, I'm purposely just going to ask to have a different route just to trigger him a bit.
See how he gets mad. I know, because you kacau one lah.
I mean, because like sometimes, I think everybody has had the experience where for whatever reason, maybe they take a route that is slightly longer. And if you live in an area for a long time, you kind of know that, okay, this is definitely the best way. Because I think in the past...
But then you don't know how to think about the fact that this guy probably never drive here before, man.
I know, but
everybody knew.
Correct, but if you're telling him, can just U-turn in front. Don't take this turning, even though the app is telling you to turn right.
And then he yell at you.
Then he said, no,
it says here that I follow the GPS.
Yeah, he said, no, the car park is away. I'm like, no, it's really there. Like, I live there.
Oh.
Yeah, so then it becomes a thing like when I see this message, I'll be like, hey, then you are just assuming the worst of me. It's almost like you're assuming guilty until proven innocent, as opposed to the other way where
I mean, it's Singapore, isn't it?
What do you mean by that?
Guilty until proven innocent is Singapore, what? Right?
You say that is Singapore?
Wait, is it not?
I mean, no, but you're saying that's the Singapore
in the US
mantra.
It's innocent until proven guilty, but Singapore is opposite.
Yeah, I know. But
correct, right?
I mean, to a certain extent in the legal system.
I mean, there's always a certain extent in the legal system.
I'm saying
but
for lay people on the street, like, do you think it's good that everybody walks out there?
But people preempt.
I know, but how much preempting you want to do in life?
But I'm saying, like, Singaporeans, we preempt, you know what I mean?
How?
People expect the worst already. You don't think, man?
I don't think so. You go around Singapore expecting the worst from people?
No, but like sometimes I'm the recipient of it. Then I'm like...
So what recipient of what?
For example, the thing that pops to mind when I say this is like, I remember being on the train, and then like I was about to leave, but then it's very crowded. But then the person was standing in front of the door, so I couldn't get outside. So I just leaned over. Is it leaned over or leaned?
Yeah, leaned.
Is there
I don't think that you leant over. Lent is the past tense of lending money lah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I leaned over and I said, hi, excuse me, I need to, this is my stop. She snaps her head at me. So rude! go back to your country lah, excuse you. I'm like, So I'm like, oh, wow. And I think it was also in that moment that I realized, oh, if you're foreign, this is how people treat you. So I understand, again, Chinese Singaporeans were very privileged, but I think that was one of the realizations among many actually, like that I realized, oh wow, the first thing that people assume is that you are telling them that what they're doing is wrong, and so then they respond in a defensive way, and it was very shocking for me lah. So that was like, that was like.
But wouldn't you say that's an
exception to the rule
rather than the norm?
I think there's so many people that any of these combinations of personalities, attitudes, and could be the case. But yeah, I mean, just from growing up here, I mean, you see people say, if you like that, then this will happen across a lot of things, right? So like people, to me, Singapore has the impression to me, a local, of preempting before the conundrum. So in the same token, I feel like the guy is also, this driver is also doing
Singapore in general,
that.
people tend to, I would say they're cautious, they're paranoid. Even then, I wouldn't say
they're cautious, they're paranoid. I feel like cautious and paranoid, is quite far away from each other. Like paranoid is like, I
mean, in some way,
cautious is like, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, I'm, if I walk this way, I need to be careful. But paranoid is like,
just around the on the other side of being free flowing and going with the flow So I would say but I think I wouldn't say Singaporeans walk around with that everyone's gonna fuck me over unless I protect myself. I don't, because otherwise people wouldn't leave shit on the table when chopping tables at the hawker center.
Understand. I think there's also a sense of security that people are quite compliant and quite law-abiding, just kind of like in Japan as well, right? Like, people are generally good. But I think also maybe because I see such a high volume of comments, I get a lot of questions about when I travel solo, and when I travel solo, they're like, one girl travel like that, you not scared this, not scared that, or like, down there got guns one like these kind of things. But like, so like I think also in my mind, it's I'm not the best person to I guess we all get to share how we feel, right? And this is how I feel, because of the high volume of comments on things that go on in my life, I noticed that people are very, very cautious to a point where they are actually afraid to take that step. And so relating it back to this, I feel like I wonder if this guy's like, I'm just going to write this because I'm dulan as fuck.
I mean, so to me, the bigger thing here is that, so one thing that I think is good about the frontliners in the medical field, I don't know how effective it is, but you constantly see signs saying, do not abuse, like you will be, do not abuse our healthcare workers. You see that on buses with bus captains
like
also.
With tagged lah.
Yeah, no, as in those are official posters saying, we do not tolerate abuse of our staff.
Right, and it's necessary sometimes, yes.
The gap here is that these rideshare companies, they don't do anything to protect their drivers. So to me, if there was one takeaway from this, is like, there are probably a lot of drivers who feel that passengers have more leverage to be assholes than they can, which is understandable. And the gap is...
Rideshare companies, can you please take care of your drivers or not?
Yes.
They're not making a ton of money, and like they're working for your company, and if they are your employees, you really need to take care of them, right?
Yes.
And you have employees, I have employees, like we take care of them very well, right? But of course we don't have like 1,000 people lah, but like at least set some like boundaries in place lah.
Yeah lah.
I mean, actually, that's a good point that you bring up.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the one thing from this. Like, if a driver has to take it into his own hands to write this kind of note, something's not right.
Wrong, right?
Something's wrong, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, Haresh.
Yeah.
Spitting truth.
I mean, I wouldn't say that lah.
I definitely think that if someone is working for you as well, you got to take care of them lah.
Oh yeah, no, I would, of course that I agree lah. I'm saying the spitting truth thing is what I'm saying really truth.
Well, if it's true to you, it's true to you.
But is that truth? Then it's subjective truth versus objective truth.
Yeah, but that's why I think also everybody is entitled to their opinion, which is why censorship shouldn't exist, because then we're controlling people's opinions or access to information, therefore...
And then creativity will be unalive.
Correct.
Right?
And then we wonder why. Why we are like that? We just finance econ, and then all the creatives leave the country.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why are you still here? You're so creative.
Hey, I wouldn't say that lah. Like I think anyone can be creative. Anyone can be creative. It's just finding a way to be creative.
Work through the cracks, right? Like I say, we go with the flow, with the brief. As long as we don't get in trouble or, we don't hurt someone and then you'll get in trouble for that. I guess it's still safe to do lah. So we still every day have to censor ourselves as creators. And everyone has a certain level of self-censorship, but on a governmental level, I think education is more important than censorship for control lah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And I think there's it's interesting to hear what people think of this topic because even in the private hire Facebook group, it was quite polarizing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think it's time for you guys, the audience, to let us know how you feel about number one, censorship, and number two, this private hire message. Would you feel offended if you went on a vehicle and you saw that in front of you, scolding you, don't do this, don't do that, you better not do this because my other passengers got to do this? You let us know in the comments, okay?
And maybe not offended, maybe just feel is this something good lah? Something good. Because offended is a very loaded word, Kate.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a very loaded word. But I think now we can wrap up with our final segment, the one Shiok thing.
Oh yeah, you want to go first or I go first?
I do. And this one must give credit to Tristan because he showed this to me right before we started the podcast.
Yeah, go Tristan.
And it is the performance by Linkin Park at the World's 2024 Finals, which is an esports event. Right? World's 2024, and the song is Heavy is the Crown featuring Linkin Park. And Linkin Park, did you grow up in Linkin Park?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Linkin
We're
Park
about the same age, yeah.
Yeah, is awesome. And they now have a new lead singer because the original lead singer passed away a few years ago. And just watching the performance, it brought back memories because they still have the Linkin Park sound. And seeing them on stage was dope.
Well, I love it when artists have that sound that is an unique identifying factor.
Yeah.
It's like the crux of every artist's artistry or their life. It's what they are known for, man.
Exactly.
So
that
is one Shiok thing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Is one Shiok thing.
Yeah.
And what about you, Kate?
Well, I just came back from 56 days in the US. I have a whole vlog series because I was practicing storytelling and everything. And the last stop was in New York City. And I was spending a lot of time in Nowheresville in Idaho because I have family there. And then when I went to New York, right, I didn't realize how starved of Singaporean food I had become. I'm I can go with the flow. 2 weeks into Idaho Falls, I'm oh, I need to make food. So I started making a lot of Singaporean food or Singaporean Malaysian food. I'm not trying to claim your food, okay? It's just I grew up in Singapore and so it's Singapore food to me, but I know we stole it from Malaysia, sorry. I have to be super careful about this. I get attacked about this. It's Malaysian lah. Sorry guys. So when I went to New York City, I discovered this, Chatterbox chicken rice. Okay, so Chatterbox chicken rice is at Mandarin Orchard. It's $25 a plate. This guy called Sergeant Kiang, late Sergeant Kiang, he passed away in April this year actually. And he started the trio of sauces, with the dark sauce, the ginger sauce, and chili. Apparently that's what he started. Sergeant Kiang started this. And then, it was so good, so popular that they made a boneless chicken version for all the tourists that come and stay at Mandarin Orchard just for Chatterbox at Mandarin Orchard. Now, his son Raymond Kiang is now in New York City making Chatterbox chicken rice at a place called Urban Space. Not Urban Hawker, Urban Space. And that was the one Shiok thing. Literally, taste Shiok. Up to this point, I had never believed in something tasting authentic. Authentically, whatever it is lah. And I know there's a lot of contention points to what I'm saying right now, but because of origin of food and everything. But what struck me was okay, this is going to be a version of chicken rice that is going to still be acceptable because I haven't eaten this for such a long time. I'm going to be so gian until I'm this tastes great. But then I opened the box, right? And the first whiff that I had of the smell, I finally understood, right? that unless you are from the country of origin, you will never understand what the word authentic means because it just smelled like home. It just smelled like that.
So it wasn't a pop-up, it was a permanent
It
store.
was a permanent store. And then, I made a video about it and everybody was like, $16.30 US for, but then it's like
Huge,
3 people portion. And then everybody start comparing the price and everything. But the one Shiok thing was that this guy is like the most, Uncle Raymond, the store owner, the son of Sergeant Kiang of Chatbox Chicken Rice. He is the most humble artist in the chef field. And the one Shiok thing is being able to connect with a Singaporean that's from a previous generation, almost same age as my parents, and go hiking with him and like just hang out with him. And
Wait, you went hiking with him?
The next day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the day I went to buy, he wasn't there. Then as I was leaving, I saw him and I was like, "Are you Uncle Raymond?" And he's like, "Caitanya." I'm like, "Yes." How you know? He's like, "Oh, last time you come, I wasn't here, but I saw your video." And I was like so excited. We exchanged numbers and I was like, "Uncle Raymond, tomorrow me and Praveen, also a Singaporean in New York, we're going to go hiking. You want to come?" And he said yes. And we talked about the Shiok thing is like not just the chicken rice, but like the sentiment that, Singaporeans outside of Singapore, we connect so much deeper, like kaki lang, like kampong, And that was the super Shiok thing. Knowing that, in probably most parts of the world, all you need to do is like reach out on social media and you'll find someone that's actually from your country of origin. And you can have a really good time talking about...
So I guess the one Shiok thing is for people who are in New York or based in New York, go to Uncle Raymond's store.
It's called Lo Yao Ki, yeah.
And ask him to go for a hike.
Correct, yeah.
He likes hiking.
Yes. Okay. Especially if you're Singaporean. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is many Shiok things in the one Shiok thing.
There's one super Shiok thing.
ADHD.
Okay. Cool. But so if people wanted to find more of your content, where should they go?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Kate of All Traits.
So CAIT.
Correct. Of all traits. TRAITS. Yeah, I wanted Kate of All Trades, but that was taken and that person just will not respond. So it's like an empty account with 0 following.
Oh.
But it's fine.
I see. So it's Kate of All Traits.
Trait.
Cool. So thanks again for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Harish. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
Yeah, your father and all now. So.
Yeah, I know. Since She's a Terrorist days. Yeah.
Yeah.
From
bondage king to Appa.
To Appa, correct. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Remember to follow Kate's instructions and share this podcast with at least one other person. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and Reddit. And
like, subscribe, share, and comment, and let us know how you feel about this topic that we were talking about. I think
exactly. So thanks for listening, everybody, and talk to y'all soon.